Protests at Columbia University are getting out of control, and the school is now being shut down by the police and the dean of the university. NYC Attorney General Letitia James is furious at Donald Trump because he's finally going to get his day in appeals court. Ukraine gets $60 billion from American taxpayer money, and the United Kingdom only puts up $500 million. Plus, I'm going to share a huge bombshell about Dr. Anthony Fauci. Thank you guys so much for liking and sharing these videos because it really helps me out. So thank you guys so much. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Lana, Judith, Jesse, Eric. All right, let's jump into the news. Earlier this month, New York Attorney General Letitia James challenged the validity of Donald Trump's $175 million bond, which he secured with the California company Knight Specialty Insurance Company. While James argued that the insurance company may not be able to fulfill its financial obligation, a judge has sided with Donald Trump, allowing the bond to stand. Apparently, behind the scenes, Letitia James is furious as she was planning to seize Donald Trump's assets. I mean, how low do you have to be to put a ridiculous bond amount, then have another court say that's a ridiculous bond amount, and then block it so that you can keep him out of court and steal his properties? Now, this case isn't about money. It is about destroying Donald Trump, his family, and his empire. Even if Trump loses his appeal and refuses to pay, the insurance company will be held liable for the $175 million bond, and Letitia James will get her money either way. But Judge Arthur Engoron has determined that he can now, that Trump can now move forward. Now, do you think that Letitia James should get in trouble for what some are calling obstruction of justice? Because that's exactly what she did. She has obstructed Trump from being able to get justice in the appeals court and justice with the $175 million bond. I believe this is obstruction of justice. If you agree with me, please type yes over in the chat. Now, in Trump's hush money trial, which is also in New York, there is talks that he could be facing jail time for violating his gag order. However, even CNN is saying gagging the former president is against his freedom of speech, but I guess we should just do whatever the judge says. Now, while the law does allow for the judge to impose jail time, prosecutors backed away from explicitly requesting Donald Trump be jailed. With that being said, Judge Merchan stated it will take time for him to make a decision on this ruling. Now, the reason I don't think they really want to jail Trump is he will go up in the polls. And Biden right now can't afford to lose any more ground to Donald Trump. You guys are saying yes, 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 yes. All right, now there is also chatter coming out of New York that Donald Trump might bravely decide to skip court in order to attend his son Barron's high school graduation and then deal with the consequences as they come. Do you think that Donald Trump should go to court, or should he go to Barron Trump's high school graduation? I would love to hear from you. Now, in reference to the two cases that I just discussed, Trump's lawyer, Alina Habba, addressed the New York Supreme Court by stating, the fact that we have two courts, not one, criminal and civil, being used against one man because they cannot beat him in the polls is a disgrace to the American judicial system. You should not have two teams of lawyers here today. You should not even be here today because he, Donald Trump, did nothing wrong. This is the epitome of a witch hunt. So she is pointing out clear as day what this is really about. This is not about whether Trump slept with a former Playboy model or something like that. This is about election interference and keeping him off the campaign trail. Now, Trump posted today, highly conflicted, to put it mildly, Judge Juan Merchan has taken away my constitutional right to free speech. Everybody is allowed to talk and lie about me, but I am not allowed to defend myself. This is a kangaroo court, and the judge should recuse himself. Now, many are saying that Judge Juan Merchan is not going to recuse himself. So it's going to take a higher court to either forcefully remove him or an appeals court to say, yeah, his highly partisan court antics, you are not going to have to move forward with that case. So we will see what ends up happening. As House Speaker Mike Johnson continues to face massive backlash from Republicans for passing aid to Ukraine, Trump has finally defended him. During a new interview with radio host Chris Stigall, Donald Trump stated, remember, the speakership we're talking about has a majority by one vote. You can't really get too tough when you lack the votes. Mike is in there and he's trying, and some people were disappointed, and a lot of people were very disappointed, but nothing happened with the border. I'll straighten out the border. So he's somewhat defending Mike Johnson, saying, listen, I'm not super pleased with Mike Johnson, but he doesn't have a great majority. And when it comes to the border, nobody's going to fix the border except for Donald Trump. So perhaps Trump isn't as pleased with Speaker Johnson as much as the media would have you believe. Maybe Trump just knows the value of holding the majority. Now, I have to comment on this for a second. I understand that many Republicans are frustrated, but Trump has a point. How are you supposed to pass real border funding when Biden is in the White House? Let's be realistic for a minute. Biden clearly does not care about fixing the border. He didn't budge on the issue for nearly 4 months as Johnson tried to tie money to Ukraine and Israel to the border. This leads me to believe that Biden would hang Ukraine out to dry if he could before he gives any help or money to the United States border. Now, in the end, Biden only cares about himself and getting reelected so he can retain power. You can't negotiate with someone like that. Now, I'll be interviewing former Senator Rick Santorum from Pennsylvania. His group is trying to put together a terms limit through getting the states to agree and go around Congress. But in the meantime, he told me in a private conversation, there is plenty of money for the American border issue. There just isn't a president in the White House that cares about it. Now, I thought that was a very interesting and poignant comment. I'm excited to do that interview with the former senator. Now, thankfully, the people of the United Kingdom have decided to pitch in and help Ukraine, so it's not just us. Earlier today, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced a $500 million aid package to Ukraine. Now, it's a huge difference, 500 million compared to 60 billion, but it's better than nothing. But there's a reason we are left footing the bill every time. And Donald Trump has it exactly right. NATO nations need to put up their fair share of money. NATO members continually rely on the United States and U.S. taxpayers to foot the bill, but Trump is saying no more. If he gets back into office, everyone pays their correct percentage or they are out of NATO. President Joe Biden has finally commented on the anti-Semitic protests at Columbia University in New York. Speaking to reporters in Virginia, Joe Biden stated, I condemn the anti-Semitic protests. That's why I set up a program to deal with that. I also condemn those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians and how they're doing. What? Those who don't understand what's going on in Palestine? To me, it seems like he's condemning everyone who holds a different view than he does. But listen to this. Yesterday, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, actually praised protesters at Yale and Columbia for making their voices heard on Palestine. However, today, the dean of Columbia has closed the campus and canceled in-person classes for the rest of the term because the protests are so out of control and the hatred towards Jews is at an all-time high. She cannot keep students safe. And last night, police were brought in to break up fights and violence as people were calling for death to the Jews. Now, many of the students protesting are now demanding they get their tuition money back, saying that the university has let them down. So they shut down the school, called for the death of Jews, and now want a refund. Also, I've watched these protests, and a huge percentage of them are wearing masks. Are these people still scared of COVID? Or are they scared of having their faces shown? A disease that's now considered more mild than the flu, or protecting your image. We all know why they are wearing masks. It's because they're embarrassed of their behavior. Speaking of this, did you know that the city of Philadelphia is now trying to ban masks because people still wearing masks and ski masks are most likely to be robbing stores and gas stations. So people are pretending to be afraid of COVID, but really it's to conceal their identity while they rob and steal other people. All right, but I'm not the only one noticing this. Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz appeared on Fox News to discuss Biden's controversial remarks. He stated, "What an outrageous moral comparison. Nobody could in any way support what Hamas did, and yet these kids are yelling, 'I am Hamas.'" And he is equating that morally with people who reasonably believe that what's happening to the Palestinians is largely the fault of Hamas. But as the saying goes, when you go woke, you go broke, right? Now, England Patriots owner Robert Kraft has decided to pull all funding from Columbia University because of the Hamas protesters. He stated, "I am not comfortable supporting the university until corrective action is taken. It's my hope that Columbia and its leadership will stand up to this hate by ending these protests immediately." And Trump commented on the Columbia University protest as well. He said, "The Palestinian protest at Columbia University has closed the college down, but the area surrounding the courthouse in downtown Manhattan, it's closed up like a drum. With New York's finest police all over the place, why not send some to Columbia to protect Jewish students and others? The university would not have to shut down. Republicans want the right to protest in front of the courthouse like everyone else." And last night, Trump wrote, "Why are Palestinian protesters and even rioters allowed to roam the cities, scream, shout, sit, block traffic, enter buildings, not get permits, and basically do whatever they want, including threaten Supreme Court justices right in front of their homes? And yet people who truly love our country and want to make America great again are not allowed to peacefully protest and are rudely and systematically shut down and ushered off to faraway holding areas, essentially denying their constitutional rights. America-loving protesters should be allowed to protest at the front step of courthouses all over the country, just like it is allowed for those who are destroying our country on the radical left. A two-tiered system of justice. Free speech and assembly have been chilled for USA protesters. Go out and peacefully protest. Rally behind MAGA. Save our country. The only thing you have to fear is fear itself." Now, these anti-Semitic protests continue. Democrat Representative Nancy Pelosi has called for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to be removed from office. She stated, "We recognize Israel's right to protect itself. We reject the policy and practice of Benjamin Netanyahu. Terrible. What could be worse than what he has done in response? He should resign. He ultimately is responsible." Now, I find it insane to suggest that yet Netanyahu is ultimately responsible for not achieving peace. Hamas is literally holding people hostage and using them as human shields. Now, Netanyahu is the reason we don't have peace, is what Pelosi is saying. And she's calling for him to be forcefully removed. Do you agree with Nancy Pelosi? Is this all Benjamin Netanyahu's fault? Does Israel have the right to defend itself? Should the death in Palestine be stopped? I would love to hear from you. I know that this is an extremely emotional situation with differing opinions on both sides. All right, now listen to this. According to Judicial Watch, a watchdog organization, the FBI has finally turned over 5 pages that they have been fighting tooth and nail to keep hidden from the American public. In these 5 pages, it details that the FBI knew Dr. Anthony Fauci was funding gain-of-function research in China. Let me repeat that. These 5 pages prove the FBI knew Dr. Anthony Fauci was funding gain-of-function research in China, specifically among bats. The goal was to understand it and then amplify the virality of the coronavirus. In the documents, China's labs could only be funded with American taxpayer money from Dr. Fauci and EcoHealth Alliance if, and I quote, the scientists could leave no signature of purposeful human manipulation. Let me repeat that. Fauci was willing to give American taxpayer money through the EcoHealth Alliance if the scientists in China could leave no signature of purposeful human manipulation. Basically, if they could cover this up, he was willing to make COVID viruses extremely viral, extremely infectious. You guys, the FBI's been covering this. They literally put Fauci in charge so that he could cover up his own crime. So Dr. Fauci knew this research was happening, and he knew that he was the one funding it. He also knew that his Frankenstein monster had escaped the lab in China. Just today, Senator Rand Paul said the only reason Dr. Fauci isn't rotting in jail is the Biden administration leaned heavily on him, and it would make them look bad too. Now, let me know in the comments, do you agree with Senator Rand Paul that the only reason Dr. Fauci isn't rotting in jail is it would make the Biden administration look bad as well? Whatever happened to the truth? Whatever happened to justice, holding people accountable? This guy literally ruined millions and millions of lives. People died all over the world, and more in America than anywhere else on the entire planet. Billions of people had their lives upended because of this guy. And the FBI was covering this up, probably to protect America, probably to protect the Biden administration, definitely to protect the precious, precious image of Dr. Fauci. How could they make a Patel Barbie doll after this guy and then find out that he's the actual monster that funded this in the first place? Absolutely disgusting. I hated COVID. I don't know about you guys, but I got Delta twice and it screwed up my life big time. Getting sick, that sick, screwed up my life. Thanks, Dr. Anthony Fauci. All right, now that's my update for today. Sorry to get all worked up. Someone's saying, cool down. I will. I'm going to have to go have a lemonade after this or something. But it makes me sick. It makes me sick that these people just got away with this massive crime, this massive psyop, this shovel American taxpayer money to big pharma. What a load of crap. Anyway, the truth is always coming out. We found out a lot of truth. If you guys didn't watch my show last night, do not leave YouTube without watching it. I expose Biden, the FBI, the DOJ. I expose all of them in new documents that came out just last night. That's as much as I'm going to say, but definitely go check that out. Hey, I want to remind you guys that you are amazing. I love you. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. I want you in my community. Thank you so much, and I will see you on the next video.